All right, it's time for us to talk sport on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momo, the king of sport. I've got big stories there from Stamford Bridge to Anfield and all parts of Europe. We've got all the big stories making the rounds as the transfer market hits the business end. And Chelsea is at it again as they move for more players. Let's tell you that Chelsea midfielder Conor Gallagher has been given permission to fly to Madrid for a second time to finalize his 40 million euros move to Atletico. Homegrown Gallagher was in the Spanish capital last week and returned to London when his proposed transfer was complicated by Chelsea's talks over Atletico's Samuel Omorodion collapsing. Yet with Chelsea now set to sign João Felix instead, Gallagher has been given the green light to travel, ending an association with the Blues, which began when he joined the academy at the age of 6. The fee that Chelsea will receive is lower than the one they accepted from Aston Villa earlier in the summer window. Gallagher resisted the move, but will now link up with new manager Diego Simeone, who privately told him in talks how much he wanted to work with him. That included when it looked like the deal was in danger of collapsing after he flew back from Madrid to London. The news of Gallagher's departure will disappoint a large number of Chelsea fans who have grown dissatisfied with how many of their own they are selling. All right, so that's a man on your picture there will be moving to Atletico in Spain, and hopefully Chelsea will be bringing in João Felix as a replacement. All right, let's move on to still talking Chelsea matters. Jamie Carragher has slammed Chelsea's transfer policy and urged prospective arrivals to reconsider joining the club this summer. Ahead of Enzo Maresca's first season in charge of Stamford Bridge, the Blues have continued their recent trend of being prolific in the transfer market, with 9 senior arrivals already confirmed. More signings are still expected ahead of the window closing at the end of this month, with João Felix arrival from Atletico Madrid expected to be officially announced imminently. While the policy has provided Maresca huge depth in talent to work with, as the Blues look to secure Champions League football this season, it has not proved to be universally popular. Speaking ahead of Leicester's clash with Tottenham, Carragher insisted that he is perplexed as to why any player would want to try and compete for a place in such an already bloated squad. All right, that's talking Chelsea matter there, and Carragher believes that players should not sign for the Blues. All right, as we give you more big stories, just to let you know that Prince Effiong Enobong who will be joining us from London to give us his take as regards some of the big stories we're looking at this morning. Let's move on to other big stories that made the rounds last night, as it was Leicester taking on Tottenham after returning from the Championship, and one man was unsung last night, his name Jamie Vardy. Yes, remember him? Tottenham Hotspur would prefer to forget him, but last night, at the age of 37 years, he was back to bother them again with his own very special brand of a menace. No house party this time, no wild kitchen celebrations as they were on that night in the spring of 2016, when Tottenham challenger was ended by a Chelsea comeback and handed the title to Claudio Ranieri's 5,000-1 outsiders, talking about Leicester City. Simply on this occasion, his 9th Premier League goal against Spurs, and that proved enough to transform what for almost an hour looked like a very comfortable away win into an unlikely point for Leicester City, and perhaps the spark required to light Steve Cooper's era. Let's let you know that Vardy was marked at the back post to nod in a cross by Abdul Fatawu in the 57th minute and wipe out the opener scored by Pedro Porro in the first half. He nearly found a winner forward by fabulous Guillermo Vicario save as he dashed clean through 20 minutes from time. That was Leicester and Tottenham playing out a 1-1 draw last night, and signaling the return of Jamie Vardy to the English Premier League. And he did score a very beautiful goal with a glancing header at that to give Leicester the required point. And don't forgetting that Ndidi, yes, Wilfred Ndidi also did star in that game. Talking about Nigerian-born Wilfred Ndidi was in that battle. All right, let's move on and talk about Newcastle story. We're talking about EPL. Bruno Guimaraes is in the news this morning. Just to let you know that Bruno Guimaraes is a Newcastle's United's new team captain and is now almost certain to remain at the club. May Sport can reveal that the Brazilian wore the armband in a competitive fixture for the first time versus Southampton on Saturday, with captain Jamal Leslie injured and vice-captain Kieran Trippier on the bench. Trippier has led out the team during the majority of the matches since arriving from Atletico Madrid in January 2022, but that will now be the duty of Guimaraes. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe, the coach of Newcastle, believes that the midfielder will thrive given the extra responsibility and is thought to have a wanted clarity around the situation of who captains the team on permanent basis, with Guimaraes promoted to the role. So now Newcastle United has got a new captain. His name is Guimaraes. All right, just for you to know that Trippier will continue as vice captain and part of the leadership group along with Dan Burn, Callum Wilson and Jacob Murphy. Trippier's future on the Tyneside remains uncertain. There is interest from home and abroad, but Howe wants him to stay, with staff sure that England star will be leader with or without the armband. Meanwhile, Guimaraes is admired by Manchester City, but sources are confident he will still be at St. James's Park beyond next Friday's transfer deadline. Meanwhile, the 26-year-old has spoken of his pride at skipping the team during the 1-0 victory over the Saints, and the reward of the armband is a sign that his commitment to the club. Now, you know, Newcastle has got a new captain. Guimaraes is the man. Let's take you to Anfield. The Gunners are in the news this morning. Let's give you the big story that the Wolves have made an approach for Arsenal's goalkeeper. His name, Aaron Ramsdale. All right, Ramsdale, who's 26, has made 89 appearances for the Gunners since joining from Sheffield United in 2021 for an initial fee of £24 million. All right, the Englishman impressed across his first 2 seasons at the Emirates, but following the arrival of David Raya from Brentford at the start of the 2023-2024 campaign, Ramsdale lost his spot in the team, which has led to much speculation surrounding his future. And now the Gunners rejected a loan proposal from Ajax for Ramsdale earlier this month, but have still lined up Espanyol's Joan Garcia as he's a possible replacement in case he leaves. But meanwhile, let's also let you know that Newcastle had inquired about Ramsdale earlier this year, but Arsenal's asking price was then deemed too high. Yet now considering a lower offer to allow the 26-year-old to kickstart his career, Wolves have offered a loan with option to buy, owing to the fact that they have only £20 million to spend this transfer window. Meanwhile, despite Ramsdale's lack of action for Arsenal in recent times, he remained an ever-present in Gareth Southgate's England squad and was the number 2 man for Jordan Pickford at the Euro 2024. So it means despite him being the second man for Arsenal, he's still a very important man for the Three Lions of England. And we did see him warming up a couple of times during the Euros 2024 in Germany. All right, stay talking transfer matters from Arsenal. Let's go to Stamford Bridge, and Juventus is in the news this morning. You call them the old lady of Turin. That's Juventus, and they're in the news this morning. Let's say that Raheem Sterling has been the subject of inquiry from Juventus amid uncertainty over his future. Mail Sport exclusively revealed on Sunday through a statement from his representative that Chelsea's forward was seeking clarity over his future after being left out by Enzo Maresca's first match they scored for the game versus Manchester City on Sunday. Let's let you know that Sterling was given the weekend off following the decision for him not to be included in the squad to face Manchester City. But sources on Monday were indicating that there has been a movement to schedule talks with a view to resolving the simmering situation, which was the desired outcome of the decision decision to release Sunday's statement. Meanwhile, proud to Sunday's Ferrari, Italian side Juventus, you call them the old lady of Turin, had registered an interest with Chelsea as regards the 29-year-old forward. It is understood that Turin club would need to lighten their current wage bill before making a concrete move for Sterling, with the forward Federico Chiesa among the players who could leave for Sterling to come in. And indeed, I know Raheem Sterling will be electric for the old lady of Turin. They need such a player with so much pace into their rank and file. So we might just see Sterling move from Stamford Bridge from Chelsea and going to the old lady of Turin, talking about Juventus. In the coming days and weeks before the transfer window closes for August, I will get to know if Sterling will still remain in Chelsea or if he's going to be among the old lady of Turin. All right, let's move on. Still talking transfer business. Nottingham Forest is in the news this morning. Still in search of a striker. Let's let you know that Nottingham Forest have made a minimum of £25 million offer for Arsenal striker Eddie Nketiah. Yes, the bid does not match the Gunners' minimum valuation of £30 million, and talks between both clubs over a switch are continuing with a view to reaching an agreement. Meanwhile, Nketiah can leave the Emirates and saw a move to Marseille fall through earlier this summer after the French side refused to meet Arsenal's asking price. Meanwhile, Forest are now trying to tempt their Premier League rivals into selling Nketiah, who was picked for England last season. Maysport understand their current offer is worth at least £25 million, which could rise further, according to the bonus payment being made. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace also have a long-term interest for Nketiah, but Forest now appears to be in the pole position to sign the centre forward. So Nketiah might be leaving the Gunners, might move to Nottingham Forest after his deal to Marseille did fall through. We're still hoping for Prince Effiong to join us via Zoom from London to get his take as regards some of the big stories we shared already. We're still in the transfer window as we look at big players moving from one club to the other, and there's no doubt Chelsea is one of the most active teams in the English Premier League. Let's still talk Chelsea matters. Let's take you into Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea have agreed a deal to sign João Felix from Atletico Madrid, further complicating Raheem Sterling's position at the club after he already found himself falling down the pecking order in the left wing. Let's also let you know that 29-year-old international, yes, England international, who is under contract till 2027, was squeezed out of Enzo Maresca's squad for Sunday's loss to Manchester City as new signing Pedro Neto, Christopher Nkunku, and Miko Modric were selected instead. And sources in Spain have suggested that the fee for Felix is 45 million euros, approximately 38.4 million pounds, plus 5 million euros, 4.3 million pounds in add-ons. Though Chelsea's insiders have not yet stood up that figure. It has agreed a 6-year contract with the option of additional 12 months, having previously spent time on loan at Stamford Bridge. Just to let you know that the arrival of the 24-year-old is likely to unlock Conor Gallagher's move to Atletico in a separate deal after his switch was stalled last week due to Samuel Omorodion's own transfer collapse. Meanwhile, the fee for Gallagher is set to remain at the previous agreed 40 million euros. That's taking it to be 34.1 million pounds. Yet Sterling can now only wonder what his own future holds ahead of returning to Cobham on Tuesday. That's today, with the players having a pre-planned day off on Monday following their 2-0 defeat by City. So it's a very big one. Atletico Madrid is selling off João Felix to Chelsea, and means Gallagher moving opposite direction to Atletico, and means more sad news for Raheem Sterling. But good news for him is the fact that Juventus are coming for him, and they really want Sterling. Sterling would do great for Juventus especially looking at the Italian style of football. All right, we're still in the transfer window as we look at one more big story as Manchester United is in the news. Monday night saw Fulham move for Burnley midfielder Sander Berg in a £25 million deal. The Norway international was an option for Manchester United, but they are trying to sign Uruguayan international Manuel Ugarte from Paris Saint-Germain on loan. Baj plans to travel to London with his agent Morten Vistid on Tuesday for a medical once given the all clear. Fulham have offered £20 million with further £5 million in add-ons for the 26-year-old. They had revised talk with Manchester United over a deal for Scott McTominay, but that was proving more expensive. Berg's move underlines Ugarte as United's priority target for the midfield position. So what it means, United want PSG to drop their asking price and ideally need to sell, but are trying once again to strike an initial loan with an obligation to buy. Meanwhile, Berg has played no part in either Burnley's opening 2 games of the championship campaign under new head coach Scott Parker, who replaced Vincent Kompany earlier this summer. He made 37 appearances last term as Burnley were relegated from the Premier League. All right, let's go for a very quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be taking you to Spain, where Real Sociedad is still in the news, and we've got their president, Joaquin Aperribe, still talking, says it's unfortunate that Arsenal wants his player. After this break, stay with us. Welcome back. We're still talking sports with all the big transfer news and making the rounds as the players and coaches move from one club to the other. Let's talk about Spain and England, where the transfer business is booming, as Real Sociedad's club president Joaquin Aperribe has confirmed that Arsenal have made an approach for their influential midfielder Mikel Merino in a post on X by journalist Chris Wiltil. Aperribe says has admitted a deal for Merino could be in the making. Unfortunately, one of the teams we didn't want to show up showed up, says Sociedad's president, was quoted as saying, alluding to the Gunners. He also added that the club would consider a Merino-shaped sale after previously being bullish on the Spanish club's chances of keeping their star man. Meanwhile, Merino has been excluded from Real Sociedad's squad for their La Liga's opener against Rayo Vallecano on Sunday, and Aperribe has since confirmed the player influenced the decision to omit him from the squad. So it means Arsenal, the Gunners might just get their man in terms of the Spanish star. All right, let's move on. Let's still stay in Spain. It's Man City news. We're looking at the Etihad is where we're heading to right now. Let's say that Manchester City are exploring the possibility of a blockbuster reunion with Barcelona's Ike Gundogan. Yes, Gundogan is the man in the news this morning. Gundogan left the Etihad Stadium on a free transfer last year, but after just 12 months, is open to leaving the new camp. City have maintained all summer that they are happy with the current squad, and any transfer business is likely to come from an unexpected developing situation later in the window. The potential of Gundogan departing the Catalonia only arose over the weekend, with the 33-year-old already having interest from clubs in Turkey and Saudi Arabia, including Al Nassr, home of Cristiano Ronaldo, America Laporta, and Sadio Mane. All right, just to let you know that Pep Guardiola intimated last week that he was hoping for a reinforcement following Julian Alvarez's move to Atletico, while the Premier League champions have struggled to find a suitable backup for Rodri in defensive midfield. Meanwhile, Mateo Kovacic, deputized in the position, joined the 2-0 win at Chelsea on Sunday, and Gundogan would also fit the bill of being capable of playing anywhere in central midfield. The German international was Guardiola's first signing as manager and spent 7 years at City, ending as captain during the treble campaign in 2023. Talking about Gundogan, the man who is in Barcelona wanting to return back to Man City because he has been frozen out in Barcelona. But would Gundogan make it back into the Man City lineup? Kovacic was sublime against Chelsea over the weekend, and let's see what's going to pan out if Ike Gundogan will be able to return back to City and if he would find his position back in the team. All right, let's move on to other talking stories. We're talking Thierry Henry this morning. Yes, Thierry Henry is in the news this morning. Let's let you know that Thierry Henry has walked away from his job as manager of France's under-21 team following the side's defeat by Spain in the Olympic final. The Arsenal legend was appointed into the role last August after stints coaching Belgium and managing Monaco and Montreal in part. The position meant that Henry, who scored 51 goals in 123 matches for his national side, would also take charge of the French Olympic team during their home games in Paris this summer. He managed to lead the side to an impressive silver medal, narrowly missing out on gold to Spain, who beat them 5-3 after extra time, thanks to 2 late goals from Sergio Carmelo. And now Henry has quit the job after less than a year and revealed that the reasons of his own were behind his decision. He managed to lead the side to an impressive silver medal, narrowly missing out on the gold due to Spain's beating them 5-3 after extra time. All right, that's Thierry Henry there, leaving his job as France's under-21 coach. And where does he move next is a big question. Yes, Arsenal fans, they call him Igwe. That's Thierry Henry there, having led France to the silver medal at the Olympics. Where next does he go is the big question we'll be asking this morning in terms of Thierry Henry. All right, let's do some tennis stories as Naomi Osaka responded to a question on her TikTok account, shutting down a claim that she is pregnant. The 4-time Grand Slam champion also said she wouldn't want any more children due to her traumatic experience while giving birth the first time. Osaka became mother last July, welcoming 1-year-old daughter Shai into the world with a rapper, Conde. Osaka's latest tournament appearance was at the Cincinnati Masters, failing in the quarterfinals to American Ashley Krugger in 3 sets. As she gears up for the final Grand Slam tournament of the year, the U.S. Open, which she last won in 2020, Osaka is now having to shut down pregnancy rumors. Osaka has not made it past the second round of the Grand Slam tournament. Since becoming a mother, there is a good chance that streak ends in one of the next 2 tournaments, the U.S. Open and next year's Australian Open, as those are the 2 majors she has won before. All right, those are some of the stories in the world of tennis. Let's quickly run out for a very quick break. When we return, we take other big stories making the rounds.
But by your name, you say global. So global is a big coverage. So you are taking a big name, but you are starting from from the scratch. So that big name, by the grace of Almighty Allah, you achieve that. You will appreciate your activities, your reportage, and everything you are doing. Do it with the fear of Almighty God. Step by step, you'll be growing very, very globally. Get your things right and then report rightly. And then inshallah, sky will be your limit.
It's time for sport's biggest moments on global television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Beautiful work from the wingers.
I want to go further to congratulate you on being on DSTV 365. Yeah, channel 365.
It's time for sport's biggest moments on global television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Beautiful work from the wingers.
right, welcome back from that break. We're still talking sports and looking at big stories making the rounds. Let's just remind you that Leicester, yes, talking about Leicester City, have paid a tribute to their former manager, Craig Shakespeare, ahead of their Premier League return against Tottenham. They did show some respect to Shakespeare, who was the assistant to Claude Ranieri, joined the Leicester's incredible run, success in the 2015-2016 season. Passed away earlier this month, aged 60, following a battle with cancer. Ahead of the game in King Power Stadium on Monday night, Leicester, Jamie Vardy's and former Foxes playmaker James Maddison, now at Tottenham, both laid flowers at the memory of Shakespeare to signify the loss of their former assistant coach who died fighting cancer. There was a minute's applause in tribute to Shakespeare prior to the game, with Nigel Pearson, who worked closely with him in attendance. Players from both teams wore black armband to show their support and remembrance of the man Craig Shakespeare, former of Leicester City. All right, still looking at stories making the rounds. We'll be looking at the game between Leicester and Tottenham, where it ended 1-1 in favor of both teams after Tottenham did take the lead. A crossing by James Maddison before Jamie Vardy came in with the needed equalizer. And we're still also highlighting that Raheem Sterling's move. Report reaching us now tells us that Juventus are looking at having a medical for Raheem Sterling as early as tomorrow morning as he arrives Italy for a move to the old lady of Turin. Now that it's certain that João Felix will be signing for Chelsea, and Raheem Sterling will not be part of Enzo Maresca's future for this season. And so it makes it a very interesting watch to see how Raheem Sterling would fit in with Juventus in the new season that awaits. Meanwhile, Chiesa, a former player or still a player of Juventus, is one man that might also be moving way for for Raheem Sterling to be able to make his move permanent and have a very secured place at the old lady of Turin. As we look at other stories making the rounds, let's move on to other big stories there. And still, just to give you an update as regards the issue concerning Nketiah, as Marseille has completely said they are now pulling out of the move for Nketiah. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest have made a minimum of £25 million offer for the Arsenal striker, talking about Eddie Nketiah. The bid does not match the Gunners' minimum valuation of €30 million. Talks between both clubs are continuing with a view to reaching an agreement, as Nketiah has shown his willingness and wants a move to Nottingham Forest. Already we know that Manchester United former player Anthony Alanga is in Nottingham Forest. We also have Dennis, also Emmanuel Dennis of Nigeria, also in Nottingham Forest, alongside Taiwo Awoniyi, all playing for Nottingham Forest. And just recently, last 2 weeks, we got the story that one Thomas Ishaka from Rangers of Enugu will be moving to Nottingham Forest. So it tells you Nottingham Forest is also very serious in the transfer business this window, trying to shop their teams ahead of this very exciting season. So moving forward to other stories making the rounds, let's just give you some other update as regards the issue of Sander Berge, whose move to Manchester United looks like it's going to be blighted by Fulham's readiness of £25 million for the man called Sander Berge of Norway. Already, Norway International was an option for United, but they are trying to sign Uruguayan international who plays for Paris Saint-Germain in the person of Manuel Ugarte, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain. But both sides are yet to reach an agreement, even though Ugarte and Manchester United had personal terms already agreed. Paris Saint-Germain still needs about a £50 million for the midfield Trojan. But United is saying they have to lower their prizes for them to be able to get their man, as Stock McTominay is looking to move to Fulham during this transfer window. All right, moving on to other stories concerning the Gunners, talking about Arsenal. We know that Arsenal is moving forward with discussions with Real Sociedad in order to move for their target man, Merino, who is one player Arsenal feel they need in order for them to move on. All right, taking you to Barcelona, we've got some stories coming out from Barcelona as Gundogan looks to move. 15 months ago, it was Ike Gundogan who lifted the Champions League trophy aloft at Istanbul after leading Manchester City to an unprecedented treble. The German midfielder has arguably been City's most important player in the running, chipping in as number of vital goals in that quest for the treble. Now he is not willing to stay back at Barcelona as efforts have been made by both clubs to see how he can return swiftly back to Manchester City, with Pep Guardiola already saying he feels he still needs that man in his team. All right, let's talk some tennis news as we look at we've got Andy Murray in the news this morning. Let's see what Andy Murray has in store. One great tennis player from England is still in the news this morning. All right, before we talk about that, let's go to Newcastle, because Newcastle has got a new captain. He's Bruno Guimaraes is in the news, talking about Guimaraes being the new captain of Newcastle. He is being picked ahead of their former captain, who is currently injured, and Eddie Howe believes Guimaraes will make a better captain ahead of this new season. Meanwhile, Trippier, who is also the vice captain, though injured, remains on the bench and remains the vice captain of Newcastle. But the big news is that the Brazilian Guimaraes is the new captain for Newcastle United. All right, let's move on to other stories making the rounds as we search for big stories. Let's go to the world of boxing, as we've got some very interesting stories there, talking boxing this morning. All right, looking at the world of boxing, let's see what we've got in store, talking boxing. All right, the story is as regards Anthony Joshua getting set for his fight against Daniel Dubois, and he says he's more prepared than ever to get his title back, and he believes beating Daniel Dubois will be the best way to get a shot at the fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk as a way of getting back. All right, but from Anthony Joshua, let's move on to other boxing greats as we're looking at Russian boxer, heavyweight boxer Alexander Berg. Makhmudov showed his brutal eye injury after losing to Guido Vanello on Saturday at the Vedostrom Center in Quebec City. The ringside doctor was forced to stop the fight on Makhmudov's behalf, as the swelling around his left eye got concerningly worse in the 8th round. Days after the TKO loss, Mozok native showed the damage on his Instagram and shared how he suffered multiple head blows in the lead up to that fight. Boxing always remains a very, very dangerous sport. All right, but just to let you know that we're still looking ahead of Anthony Joshua's fight with Daniel Dubois. He needs to win that fight to be able to stand a chance in fighting Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk, depending who wins that particular bout come towards the end of the year 2024. Let's move on to other stories and trying to highlight what Carragher said this morning, that he believes that players should not sign or want to sign for Chelsea, looking at the amount of players in the Chelsea squad. Do you agree with him? Do you think it's time for players to try not to move over to Chelsea, because they have as much of they've got 13 players moving to that team just this transfer window alone? All right. All right, just to also remind you that Chelsea's Conor Gallagher has been given the permission to fly to Madrid for a second time to finalize his £40 million move to Atletico. And just to also confirm that Atletico will be moving João Felix to the other direction, talking about Felix moving to Chelsea and Gallagher moving to Atletico. Meanwhile, Samuel Omorogion's deal has collapsed, and it means that Samuel Omorogion will remain at Atletico for this season, hoping that next season he might get his big break to move to a bigger team. But for Atletico Madrid, they are sure that Conor Gallagher will be moving to their team. So we hope he will be unveiled in the next 48 hours, having undergone his medical at Atletico Madrid. All right, let's go for a quick break. Hopefully, we'll have Prince Effiong will be joining us in a few minutes so that we can get his take on the resignation of Thierry Henry as the coach of the France's under-21 national team, and also the change of guards in Newcastle as Gomes becomes the captain of Newcastle, and we'll also get his take as regards Raheem Sterling moving to Juventus from Chelsea. As we begin to wrap it up, let's give you one big story just dropping. Has to do with Napoli and Victor Osimhen. Yes, Napoli launched a bid for Chelsea outclass, talking about Romelu Lukaku as Antonio Conte eyes reunion with Blue Stars, with the two clubs also locked in talks over potential deal for Victor Osimhen. That's the big story just dropping from Napoli this morning, this very minute. Let's tell you that Napoli have made an offer to take Romelu Lukaku on a loan with an option to buy for £25.5 million. Meanwhile, Lukaku, who joined Chelsea for £98 million in 2021, was left out of Enzo Maresca's squad for the team's 2-0 loss to Manchester City on Sunday, and has not played for the Blues for over 2 years. Meanwhile, he has spent the last 2 seasons on loan at Inter Milan and Roma, respectively, and could be now set to head back to Italy to play for a third different club, and that club could be Napoli, as the coach Antonio Conte wants a reunion with Lukaku. Meanwhile, Chelsea insists they want a permanent sale for closure to Lukaku's 90 now for £36 million release clause, with the forward still having 2 years left to play for Chelsea. But Chelsea is saying they want him to be sold outrightly to Napoli. They don't want a loan move so that they can use the money to see how they can get Victor Osimhen. Meanwhile, Chelsea and Napoli remain in talks over Victor Osimhen, although any deal would be separate from the one of Lukaku. So it means Chelsea and Napoli want a straight deal for Lukaku separately and the one for Osimhen separately. But let's also let you know that Osimhen has scored 76 goals in 133 appearances for Napoli over the last 4 years, and fired the club to the Serie A title in the 2022 and 2023 season, but was not named in their squad for the first game of the season on Sunday. That game proved to be a disaster for new manager Antonio Conte, so they lost 3-0 away to Verona. So it tells you that they desperately need a striker. If you're not playing Victor Osimhen, then you should be able to have Lukaku in your team. Losing their first game 3-0 is a very disappointing start for Antonio Conte as he leads Napoli to the new season. And so hopefully it means Victor Osimhen might still have his way and move to Chelsea. So on that Napoli news, that's how we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program Talk Sport. I want to say thank you for joining me on today's edition. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be having Marizo Dixon joining us on set, and also we'll be hopefully talking to a Plateau United coach to give us update as regards their preseason in Jos. Good morning.
Thank you.